You can't give me a cliffhanger like that. What the hell was it?
You want me to tell you what it is?
Yeah.
I can't tell you everything.
Well, you can tell me something.
We need like a Scoop City confessional. We need like a little church where I go in and I'm like,
this is it. Scoop City confessional. Tell me.
Scoop City is brought to you by Thursday Night Football on Prime Video. Hi, everybody. I'm the Athletic Senior NFL Insider, Dianna Russini.
And I'm Chase Daniel, played in the National Football League for 14 years.
News is flying. Our mentions, specifically Chase's, are exploding. Yeah, we're still sorting out what's next for the New York Jets. Now that we've seen Robert Saleh has been shown the door, Jeff Ulbrich, the interim head coach, has now taken over the reins. They're making a lot of changes, so we're going to touch on the New York Jets and what we're going to see here in the future. We're also going to take some time today to look at a group of teams and ask ourselves the very simple question: what is their deal anyway? Don't you feel like there's a bunch of teams that we can't sort out still?
Yeah, it's that after the first part of the season, right? And then you get into this like little lull, and this is where contenders separate from the pack.
Oh my God, you sound like a poster.
You like it?
Yeah.
It's good. It's good.
I bet you this guy had a lot of sports posters in his bedroom growing up. Paul Hembekides, better known as Hembo. You've probably seen him on ESPN. He's on Get Up. He always sits a little bit like to the corner of where you see Mike Greenberg, and he'll like shout out facts and numbers. And he's essentially just a human research pod.
It's impressive.
So he also just wrote a book with Mike Greenberg, and we thought we'd have him come on the show, and we actually just really wanted to argue with someone because we're sick of arguing with each other. So we brought him on to talk about.
We don't argue that much.
We're kind of like Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. We're doing a lot of talking.
No. First of all, who's Nick Sirianni in this relationship, and who's Jalen Hurts?
I'll be the Italian. I'll be the maniac. I'll be Nick. You could be Jalen. You're the focused quarterback. Oh my gosh, we're going to debate this.
I want to be Nick.
I look at it this way. If it's that much work, if it's that hard, it's probably not good, right? That's how I see it. All right, let's get to it. Here's what I'm hearing around the league. All right, so this past week, hopefully you guys tuned into our emergency podcast on Tuesday afternoon. Maybe you tuned in on Wednesday morning. Robert Saleh fired after Woody Johnson made the decision himself, flew back from London and said, this is it. I've had enough. 5 games in, technically 6 altogether as the head coach of the New York Jets with Aaron Rodgers under center. But changes are happening in New York. Todd Downing, the quarterback's coach now, is the offensive play caller. Nathaniel Hackett, the OC for the last 2 seasons, has now been demoted. And it was big news because we know how much Aaron Rodgers appreciates and how loyal he has been to his play caller going back to their days together in Green Bay. So Todd Downing now takes over as the offensive coordinator. How do you think that this is going to change this Jets offense?
It's not going to change at all. I mean, if I'm being completely honest with you, because I remember when Todd Downing was the offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans, Ryan Tannehill, 2021, 2022. Their scoring ranks in 2021, it was 15th, points per game. And then they went to 28th in points per game in 2022. So I went back, I looked at some film, and Dianna, it looks like the Hackett offense. No motion, no shifts, no stacks and bunches, when I say no motion, like that's the biggest thing. Because I want to just explain what motion does for an offense. If you're a static offense and you're just sitting in a formation, it is very easy for a defense to tell what you're doing in the easiest letter of the law. When you motion and you start in different formations and you have different personnel groupings and it makes the defense sit back on their heels for just half a second and say, let me try to figure out what they're doing. Okay, that's Hackett's offense. And that's what I saw in Tennessee in 2022. They like to run the football. They're under center play action. Aaron Rodgers hates under center play action. He's averaging 3.1 yards an air attempt, Dianna. That is last in the league off of play action. So when they make this move, I'm thinking in my head, and I don't know the whole situation, I'm thinking it's the most Jets move ever because you're demoting Aaron Rodgers' guy to bring in a guy that didn't have success. It's like just let Hackett continue on, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think we have a little bit to unpack here. You said it quickly, but you were like, well, when I see Todd Downing's offense with Ryan Tannehill under center and Derrick Henry as the running back, they ran the ball really well. I heard that, and I'm like, oh my God, sign him up. Make him call every play. Because what has been the worst part about this Jets offense right now? They have not been able to efficiently run the ball, right? The ground game is just not as good as it needs to be, especially when you have the horses. They've got Breece Hall. So when I heard that Todd Downing was elevated to be the new play caller, I immediately thought, okay, we're going to see the ground game improve, and we're going to see them better in the red zone. Okay, Tennessee was really good in the red zone when Ryan Tannehill was under center, with Todd calling the plays. I'm interested more, and it's a question for you because I don't know the answer. How is this going to work with Aaron? Like he's saying all the right things, right? He said, like, look, like I know this needed to happen, and I can tell you that I knew this in the offseason, that Aaron was okay with perhaps changing the role for Nathaniel Hackett because they brought in Arthur Smith. They didn't beat Arthur.
He lost his fastball.
They did not bring Arthur Smith in, or they didn't have a conversation with Arthur Smith because they wanted Arthur,
about that,
to work with the offensive line. They brought him in to probably be the play caller. So they knew this was a problem in the offseason.
They got to have a better plan, Dianna. They should have had a better plan. I don't know. I just think it comes down for me. It's like when Aaron Rodgers is running any offense, forget about who the offensive coordinator is. Aaron Rodgers is the offensive coordinator. He has the ability and the option at the line of scrimmage to change plays. So, if I'm Todd Downing, I'm calling in plays. I'm thinking I have, the power of the play calling. And then Aaron Rodgers switches the play to quick game. They call it drag and line.
You just said that in a really concise, nice way. I'm going to go a little Jersey on you. It doesn't matter who the play caller is, Aaron Rodgers is. He's going to go up to the line of scrimmage and do what he wants to do. It's really nice that Todd Downing is going to say it in his ear. That's not how it's going to work. He was changing the plays anyway.
Yeah.
Because that's all I keep thinking this whole time. Everyone's debating, is Todd Downing really going to be an improvement? It doesn't matter. It's just going to be about Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. Aaron's got to look in the mirror and be like, all right, if we want to win some games, first of all, we have to run the football. Breece Hall, 65 carries this year. 31 of them have gone for 2 yards or less. That's a huge deal. They are last in the league in rushing, like you said. Okay? They have to be better. Gone are the days our 35, 34-year-old MVP Aaron Rodgers carrying the team. That defense is the strength of the team. Aaron Rodgers has to rely on the run game. It'll open up the pass game. They have to be consistent at running the ball. But you look at what Buffalo's defense did against the Houston Texans in the second half. That's not an easy defense to play against. It's not some easy throwaway game on Monday night. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I would love to be not very good at my job and be unfireable, because that's essentially Nathaniel Hackett,
Yeah, but he did get fired, but he didn't get fired. You know what I mean?
He didn't get fired. He's still...
He got fired because that's the biggest thing.
There, look, his career...
My thing is, what are you doing? What are you going to do now? You're the OC, because I'm in buildings. I'm just taking myself in the buildings. I want to hit on this. And I've never been a part of a fired OC, but an OC runs the meetings, he runs the install, he runs the coaches meeting, he does everything. And if you don't know, they sit in a huge rectangle, the coaches in coaches meeting, the huge rectangle table. The offensive coordinator sits at the head of the table. It's his seat. Todd Downing's probably down the road, down there, whatever. Nathaniel Hackett, he's got to move seats. What's he going to do? How embarrassing is that for him? I'm thinking about now Todd Downing sitting in your seat. What are you doing? You're going to be the rah-rah guy on the sideline? I like Nathaniel Hackett, fine. But, doesn't make sense to me. Doesn't make sense. Such a Jets thing to do, in my opinion.
Just keeping him to keep him. Because usually you're right. When you get demoted from the play-calling duties, you're usually fired.
I'm gonna be Jersey on you. He got fired.
I like when you go Jersey on me. We'll see if maybe they get the search. I think the Bills, I can tell you from talking to them, they're expecting this Jets team to look better this week, because we see it all the time historically. After a team changes a head coach, they kind of rally together. I'm not looking at the Monday night game as much as I'm looking at week 8, week 9, week 10. I want to see how this kind of shakes out. So the Davante Adams part of all this, by the way, just a quick update on that. They're still in talks with the Raiders are still in talks with the New York Jets. So there's still a chance that this offense can add a nice piece by next week if that trade were to come through and if the Jets are willing to give the Raiders what they're looking for, which is still that second round draft pick, which
I don't think they're going to get it, right?
I don't think they're going to get it either. I don't think they're going to get it. I think they're going to have to change the price soon. Or they just, look, you heard Antonio Pierce acting as if Davante Adams is still a Raider. Maybe he wants to be there. So I love all the game playing. A team that really needs to get it together, specifically on one side of the ball, and that's their defense. It's the Cincinnati Bengals, right? Joe Burrow was unbelievable against the Baltimore Ravens, and the storyline of this team all season long has really been one thing, and that's the defense. Okay, it's just talking to people around the league, Chase. Everyone is kind of seeing what we're seeing, which is they're old, they're slow.
They're definitely old.
And when I say that, I'm not even like being funny about it. When you look at their starters, 7, 8 of these guys are 28 plus.
Oh,
in football world, that's old. Yes.
Yeah,
their best player, Trey Hendrickson, right? If Trey doesn't get to the quarterback, no one else is. He's going to be 30 in December.
Yeah. I was with Trey in New Orleans. Great dude. Love that guy.
Great dude. Good player. Probably their best player on defense, without a doubt. So they got to figure out how to fix this because the offense is humming, and I think they're going to be in a lot of trouble if they can't at least make these improvements. Because, geez, remember?
Whoa. Explain trouble, because the way you said it was a little bit daunting.
I think there is a lot of pressure right now on the Bengals defense as a whole.
Okay.
I think there's pressure on their defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo, to show something.
Not Lou.
To show something, right? That almost what we saw in Kansas City, right? They were in that game.
They were.
They were playing with confidence. They had a great game plan. They were forcing the Chiefs to kick field goals, and we both know that's like the recipe for the Bengals, right? Is that kind of bend but don't break mentality.
They like that's the whole Bengals defense. They've been good in the red zone, right? It's exactly what you said. It's good in the red zone, but their defense is their issue. I'm so sick and tired too of there's a narrative out there that Joe Burrow has lost it, and I could not push back more. Joe Burrow's having his
that.
Oh, there's people.
Just you mean like people in the media are just like on TV saying that?
Yeah, there's people.
I don't watch that trash. That is not true.
And I can't explain to our viewers and listeners enough that Joe Burrow's having his best season to date. He's first or second in every major passing category in the NFL. I digress. Their defense, they can't stop the run. That's the biggest issue, right? They did a pretty good job last week against Derrick Henry, and they still gave up 174 yards rushing. So when you can run the ball against a defensive front, because they're outmanned, they're old, they're not as strong, the scheme doesn't really lend itself to stopping the run because it's this too high look that Lou Anarumo does. When you do that, you kill the will of a defense. And if you just keep pounding the rock and pounding the rock and pounding the rock, eventually you're going to get pissed off. You're going to put 8 in the box and they're going to throw it over your head. It's exactly what Lamar Jackson did. They can't get pressure on the quarterback outside of Trey Hendrickson, exactly what you alluded to. And so that makes for a dangerous unit, meaning like you guys are going to get scored points on a lot. And Joe Burrow's doing his best to try and cover it up. And it's just not the case. Like, it's just, this is a better team than I'm seeing, Dianna.
Yeah. And I think the problem that Anarumo and even that whole group has, the ones that were there over the last few seasons, is you think of this Bengals defense as being that magical unit, and it's just not the same group because they are older. And they're not getting the turnovers that they used to get. So I think that's an area that they can focus on and improve on. Look, they got the New York Giants. They're playing them at MetLife. New York coming off a really big win across the country against the Seattle Seahawks.
Good, man. I'm telling you, they're better than you think.
Really?
Yes. The best 2 and 3 team in football right now.
Why?
They're playing better. Daniel Jones, Brian Daboll. I'm telling you, they're getting it going. It's impressive. I'm not saying they're like world beaters, but
yeah.
Hey, this is
No,
a better matchup
better.
than you guys think. You know what I mean?
I think that Cincinnati is going to probably win this game, and now that I said it, they won't.
I hope they win. Like, let's say they don't. They go to 1-5. I don't think it is, but I have to ask Zach Taylor. Love the dude. Not in trouble, right?
I don't get any sense in Cincinnati that they think Zach is not the right guy to lead this team. No way. They love him there.
I love him. I played against him in Nebraska. Did you know that?
I didn't.
Yeah.
Did he like you?
We beat him.
Good. Winners on Scoop City only. Speaking of the team that needs
on Scoop City only.
And which brings us to Cleveland. A team that could use some winning. They could use some winning. They got the Philadelphia Eagles coming up, and things are not great there. They were a playoff team last year. They're off to a 1-4 start. We know their quarterback situation it's just not getting better. It felt like it was getting better, and then it didn't. Chase, I've been wanting to ask you this for a while. Put yourself in Kevin Stefanski's shoes. Right now, what are you doing in this offensive meeting to try to get this team to play better? What's the first thing you're doing?
All right, so I'm in Kevin's shoes right now. I'm Kevin Stefanski, right? That's what you're asking.
Yes.
I'm benching Deshaun Watson. That's first and foremost. But that wasn't the question. The question was, what am I doing in the meeting? I think he has to be uber confident in Deshaun Watson, like a false confidence. Like you just give off that you really, really trust Deshaun Watson to build him up.
Players pick up on that.
No. Good coaches are really good false confidence givers. I'm telling you right now. I've been a part of it. I've seen it. And you're like, we just got to keep putting this guy back out there, build his confidence up. Now, from a schematic standpoint, I would put him under center more. I would focus on the run game more. I'm not sure when Nick Chubb's coming back. I would focus on, he's not the best at it, but throw some play action in there every once in a while. Throw some play action. Don't just put him in shotgun. You have to. And this is the best thing that Sean Payton and Andy Reid do that make them shine. It's like it's a shiny part of their offense. They protect the quarterback so well, whether it's tight ends and running backs helping the offensive line. They start their game plans with protection. If Kevin Stefanski wants Deshaun Watson to stay upright and not get hit like he's getting hit and be better, don't get him hit early in the game. Give him some easy completions. Give him some movement plays. But protect Deshaun Watson and build him up a little bit.
Yeah, and they've got a tough Eagles team waiting for them, coming off the bye, feeling a lot of pressure in Philly too. And then they've got A.J. Brown back. They've got Devonta Smith back.
Yeah,
they've got Lane Johnson's back. So they're a full go. The Browns.
Could you imagine in your household if the Browns beat the Eagles?
Yeah.
What would happen?
I don't know. Kev's pretty realistic right now about the Eagles.
Gosh,
Although I say that, I say that, but then it's
really,
just like
really high on them because they're not good.
Oh, I've been videoing him because I feel like the only way he's going to learn about how just insane he is to just watch it back because I don't think he has really bad self-awareness. And he saw the video and he's like, wow.
Hey, hold on. The best thing to do you have Nest cams in your house?
Yeah.
Oh, just show him the Nest cam of him acting like a fool. Be like, hey, not cool.
Yeah. I do think this is a big one for Philly, specifically even for Nick Sirianni. And I'm not saying I know anything like this is a do or die kind of game. It just feels it. And it's funny, just to bring this all to circle this back together here and tie a little bow on this segment. We started with the Jets. I get this question a lot. Well, all right, we see Woody Johnson fire a coach in season just after week 5. Now what in terms of the rest of the league? Well, you're going to see more. That's just how it works. Once one owner sees that they're willing to pull the trigger, more the patience always decreases, or rather, we see it all the time.
That class of 2021 coaches, Robert Saleh was part of it. You know who else is part of it? Nick Sirianni. Dan Campbell's really the only success right now. Obviously, Nick Sirianni, he's good. But that's actually, hey, wow, dropping bombs. Let's go.
Oh, stop. All right, before we get to the break, there are a bunch of quarterback changes happening this weekend, and we need your opinion on it. Okay, so I I am not happy about the whole Derek Carr injury. Okay, so he's going to be out multiple weeks with this oblique tear.
Multiple weeks. Okay, I haven't heard. I've heard maybe sometime, but you're saying okay.
Yeah, he's going to be out for a while. First of all, doesn't that just sound awful? Just an oblique
I can't imagine.
tear?
It looked bad. Like, people don't realize, like, these guys are just like prop bets on Derek Carr. You better have over 254 yards passing. Guys, we put our bodies on the line and these guys are grown men. I felt bad for them. Oh, it's awful.
All right, so they don't even go with their backup. They go with their third string rookie, Spencer Rattler. And I had some conversations with people in New Orleans this morning to just kind of get a vibe of, all right, what's this kid like? And it sounded a lot like it did this summer when we were talking on the show about.
Yeah, you told me about him this summer.
They love this kid's poise. They want him to play free. Like, they are giving this kid the keys because they believe in his confidence. And I think it's important to mention, like, yeah, it's great that they're optimistic and they're building this guy up. Like, I know that talk. I hear that talk all the time from people in organizations. Right? This is different. They really like this kid. And
wow.
I got to tell you.
What stands out down there?
I'm excited. Just his ability to process. Okay. He's another one in this class.
That's huge for
his understanding of what they're doing. So we'll see how he fares when the spotlight is on him. And then we have another rookie quarterback in New England, Drake May, up against a really tough Houston defense. Finally, he's going to make his debut. They make the change now. I mean, what do you think of them doing this?
Just wait another week. The Houston defense are killers. They are so good up front. They're going to eat his lunch. That's the worst offensive line in football. Like, the receivers are doing the New England Patriots no justice. I get you got to play the guy, and I'm sure he has confidence going in, but he's going to have to get rid of the ball quickly. He's going to have to run, and I'm just, like, worried for his life back there a little bit, to be honest with you.
Yeah. The only thing I push back on is, we know that the Elliott Wolf background he comes from Green Bay, right? Which the Green Bay philosophy is patience, right? We've seen them do it every year with their quarterbacks, going back to Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love, and they waited their time to get in there. So I understood the philosophy. I didn't agree with it when they made that decision this summer. I thought they should have played the rookie.
You wanted him to start right away, really?
I want just. He's a top
I like
pick.
it. No, I like it. I like it.
Let's just go. Let's just see what this kid's got, and we know what Jacoby Brissett is. You
knew eventually it was going to be his job. Like, why not just
correct?
And they weren't they weren't a good team. I get it.
Yeah. So now he'll get this opportunity. I'm curious what happened behind the scenes though. Specifically, like who's the one pushing the button? Is it Mayo going? We got to do this now. We got to uplift this team. You
can't give me a cliffhanger like that. What the hell was it?
You want me to tell you what it is?
Yeah.
I can't tell you everything.
Well, you can tell me something.
We need like a Scoop City confessional. We need like a little church.
This is it. Scoop City confessional. Tell me.
Okay, here's what I will tell you, because this is how it works, and it's really not inside information. You know and I know, when you make a quarterback change, owners are always signing off on it. It's just how it works. You don't very rarely.
You said a lot without saying a lot. I appreciate it.
Very rarely.
Way to be insider, Dianna.
I'm just telling you. Dianna. You know how it goes. Whether we're talking Cleveland.
I've seen it with my own eyes.
When you are invested with a top pick like that, and you're going to go to him and turn to him, you got to make sure we're all on the same page, which is fine. I think it's good to be that way.
Yeah, you got to be, for sure.
So I'm looking forward to seeing these rookies ball out this weekend. All right, when we come back, we've got a special guest. He is known as Hembo. He's basically Statman. He knows everything about everything in sports. He is going to join the show next. We're going to discuss the biggest arguments in the NFL right now. And let me just tell you, he's got no gray area. He is black or white on topics. We'll be right back. All right, back here on Scoop City, I'm so excited to introduce you guys to our next guest. You've definitely seen him on television. You heard him on or at least you hear him on the radio, you hear him on podcasts about baseball, football, basically any sport. He's one of the biggest Philadelphia fans I know, even though he does a very good job of hiding it when he needs to be a professional. But when he gets down and dirty, he reveals it. He's a producer at ESPN, co-author of a new book called Got Your Answers of 100 Greatest Sports Arguments Settled with the one and only Mike Greenberg. Paul Hembekides, known as Hembo by everyone in sports. Hembo, welcome to Scoop City.
It is a delight to be with you. I miss seeing you, my friend, and Chase. It's always good to catch up. This has been quite a time to be a Philadelphia sports fan. Less than 24 hours ago, I saw my Phillies ousted by my longtime hated New York Mets. So things aren't so good around here, Diana, but you, as someone who, for some reason, married a Philly guy, know all about it.
Yeah, well, at least you have the Eagles, right? They're soaring high right now. So we'll see about that. I can't wait to dive into some Philadelphia conversation with you, just knowing that you're going to let this thing rip.
Yeah.
So for those listening, the thing that makes Hembo so special and great is his brain is wired like AI. And I say that as a compliment.
Yeah.
So Chase, on the set, and as someone doing national television now, you know how it goes, where news comes in and you have to have an opinion and a thought, and you better know your stuff.
Right away.
Right? So it's hard to form an opinion, but most of us just tap into what we know, our general knowledge of whatever the situation is. Paul's job, his expertise, is to supply those opinions with as much meat and beef as you can think of.
We get along just well. I need that, man.
We sure would.
Paul's always 10 steps ahead, right? So if you have one thought,
awesome.
he's already added like 6 other things to add to that thought in terms of stats, thoughts, historical situations that in regards to those takes. So he's, you hear Mike Greenberg all the time on Get Up mention Hembo, and you'll hear analysts just call his name out. And it is the ultimate sign of respect because he is so good at what he does. So now you've got this new book that you authored with Greeny, and it's about it's essentially the best arguments in sports settled down. So we figured we make it NFL centric here, and we like Chase and I like to argue anyway, so this is perfect.
Let's go.
Hey, we don't. Whoa! We don't argue. We disagree.
With a lot of attitude and anger and annoyance.
It's mostly you, though. It's mostly
I know.
you.
I went all morning not even contacting Chase because I needed a break. So I want to start with Cleveland. Which trade, Paul, is worse? The Browns deal for Deshaun Watson or all of the picks and players the Panthers gave up for Bryce Young?
The Browns trade is worse. It is worse by an order of magnitude because not only does Deshaun Watson have a laundry list of off-field foibles that make him impossible to root for, but it's a contract that they can't get out of. You swing and miss on the first overall pick in the draft. Even if you concede your first-round pick next year, of course, which the Bears were able to net, it doesn't cost you in the long term because you can cut bait. It doesn't kill you from a salary cap standpoint. But Deshaun Watson, who's not only the worst quarterback in the NFL right now, Diana, he's also the most expensive. He's going to cost $73 million against the cap next year. He's going to cost $73 million against the cap the year after that. And if you want to get out from under it, it's $170 million dead cap money. The Cleveland Browns have totally painted themselves into a corner by giving this guy a $230 million guarantee when they had no business doing so, when they were desperate in doing so, when owner Jimmy Haslam decided that he couldn't watch Baker Mayfield play quarterback for him anymore, even though right now Baker Mayfield will be a huge step up. So honestly, even as someone who loves the Cleveland Browns and their fans, my mom's from the Midwest, this is exactly what they deserved. It's not like this guy didn't have it coming. Deshaun Watson, it was a decision that none of us really understood at the time, and it's a decision now that looks totally inexplicable based on what we know, and of course what it's become is a total joke. It's the biggest joke in the NFL.
What would you do? What would you say, Hembo, and do you think they could bench him? But what would you think if they benched him? Just from you see that Cleveland viral quarterback jersey. We did a segment the other day, and I was like, his name is at the top in all red on the Cleveland quarterback controversy stuff. What would you think if they benched him?
I would think that you shouldn't subscribe to the sunk cost fallacy. You have to pay him no matter what. You're a demonstrably better football team if Jameis Winston's your quarterback than you are if Deshaun Watson's your quarterback, because Deshaun Watson isn't among the 100 best quarterbacks in the NFL right now. From a performance standpoint, he's literally the worst quarterback that we've graded since Jamarcus Russell in 2009. From a team performance standpoint, it's the worst third down offense since we began tracking that stat in 1991. The Cleveland Browns are historically bad, and they're getting historically bad quarterback play. So if you're paying him no matter what, why don't we go ahead, put him on the bench, trust his backup to at least represent the team somewhat effectively, and maybe the troops will, behind Jameis Winston will rally, because we know right now, based on the facts on the ground, they're not doing so around Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, Hembo, we talked in the block earlier just about the situation surrounding the Cleveland Browns in general in terms of who's this going to fall on? Who is someone going to be the scapegoat in all of this? Because it's probably not going to be Deshaun because they just owe him so much money. They can't get out of this. Which brings us to perhaps the team that is taking all the headlines this week, the New York Jets, right? So we know they moved on from Robert Saleh.
We got to talk about the Jets again, Dianna?
Yeah, right? Oh,
okay.
Chase is over it. All right, but that being said, Jeff Ulbrich, interim head coach right now, Todd Downing, the offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett demoted to another role on the offense. Aaron Rodgers is still your quarterback. All right, so here we are. We are getting ready for week 6. My question for you, are the Jets going to regret trading Aaron Rodgers?
They're not going to regret trading for Aaron Rodgers because you have to take everything into context as far as what options you had on the table when you made every choice. Aaron Rodgers was clearly and obviously the Jets' best choice at quarterback. He was clearly and obviously the Jets' best choice from a performance standpoint. You swung and miss on Zach Wilson. You had a pretty good roster around him. You take the shot at the Hall of Fame quarterback, and obviously what happened last year was terribly unfortunate. But if Aaron Rodgers hadn't popped out his Achilles the first game of the season, 4 snaps in, who's to say that wouldn't have been a playoff team? They went 7-10 with just god-awful quarterback play. This season, it looks awful right now. But again, it's a 40-year-old quarterback coming off of a major injury. They just played 2 of the very best defenses in the NFL. I understand why everyone's freaking out right now in Jets land because you make a change like this early in the season, it makes sense. And Jets fans are used to bad stuff happening. I happen to agree with Woody Johnson. Excuse me. It's a really good roster. It might be the best one they've had in 20 years. All you need out of Aaron Rodgers is league average quarterback play. I think they're going to get it moving forward. This was always going to be a team for which it took a long time to mature. We need to see them improve a little bit on early downs. We need to see the operation be a little bit cleaner from that standpoint so they're not constantly in 3rd and long, a position they were in 21 times over the previous 2 games. I actually think that the roster in place and the relative weakness of the division, Dianna, is going to give the Jets like a 9 or 10 win season chance. And I think losing Robert
Really?
Saleh, yes, I do, because even though I don't think Robert...
Whoa, you just said 10 wins?
This is a 10-win team. Go through the schedule.
Okay, all right, let me hear it.
In terms of the future opponents, it's the 5th easiest remaining schedule in the sport. They're at a position right now in which they're 2-3, hosting the Bills for first place on Monday Night Football on Monday. The Bills, I think, are a better team, but I think the Jets have a better roster, and I don't think anyone will be stunned getting the week 1, we'll call it bump, with the new coach. The division is going to be one in which I would say 9.5 wins you the whole thing. The Jets have inarguably from a personnel standpoint, a top 10 defense. And I think even without the coaching that was in place before, it should still play up. There's no way you can convince me Breece Hall is going to average 1 first down a week moving forward. He's just too good. There's no way you can convince me that Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers won't start to develop better chemistry. This was always going to be a work in progress. I'm buying my Jet stock right now, not selling it.
I'm gonna be the Hembo to the Hembo though, real quick. I want to be the Hembo to the Hembo.
Let's go.
Yes,
let's go.
They've got the Steelers, the Patriots, the Texans, the Cardinals, the Colts, the Seahawks, the Dolphins, the Jags, the Rams, the Bills, the Dolphins. Chase, he's right. Like, you look at this schedule, it's not hard.
But the only thing, like, it is inarguable that they have, since Saleh was hired, they're like top 5 in every major defensive category, right? And the undoing, I think, at the end of the day of Robert Saleh is going to be because he never found the quarterback, and he only got Rodgers for 5 games, really 6 games, right? And so they change offensive coordinators. They go from Nathaniel Hackett to Todd Downing. I go back and watch and rack my mind about Todd Downing days in Tennessee. They were 28th in points per game in 2022 with Ryan Tannehill. My biggest issue with the Jets is you have Breece Hall. I actually like Braylon Allen too a lot. Mm-hmm. Like, the dude is a beast, but they're last in the NFL in rushing. They're dead last. And 65 of Breece Hall's runs, he has that many runs this year. 31 of them have gone for 2 yards or less. That's the issue with the Jets. The issue isn't necessarily Aaron Rodgers. He's thrown it 108 times in the last 2 games. You can't win like that. That's not the Jets I know.
No, Aaron Rodgers didn't throw it 40 times in back-to-back games. Literally one stretch under Matt LaFleur. I mean, it's been a minute since they asked him to carry that much of the burden. Right now, it's the 3rd highest pass rate in the NFL in terms of the percentage of plays in which they drop back to pass. I think that's going to change. I really do. Look, I mean, we're going through the schedule. We're sitting here and surveying the league. I think we'd all agree we're going to have a huge glut of teams between the 8 and 9 and 10 win range, and the Jets are in that glut. Yeah. Are they going to have good turnover luck? Are they going to make all sorts of penalty mistakes the way that they did under Robert Saleh? Or are they going to improve their run game? To me, when you have a defense as good as theirs is, it sets the floor of your football team. It's the offense that sets your ceiling. The defense will provide them a high enough floor that in the context of the AFC East, they're going to be playing meaningful games at the end of December, barring catastrophic injuries. But I'm not selling my Jet stock right now. To me, it's a really easy time to do that, but I'm not buying it.
All right, I got the next question.
Yeah.
I got the next question because it's Philly.
It.
No, you've asked two. Let me ask a question, Dianna. So let's go to Philly because you're drinking a Phillies cup right now.
I am.
The Philadelphia Eagles, I played for them for a year, and they paid me really well. So thank you, Philly.
The Chase Daniel era, as we call it.
Yes. Yeah. Very short, 6 months, but it was there. Do you think Jalen Hurts is overrated?
So I know we're supposed to have a strong opinion and answer things definitively as you offer me a false binary. The totally honest answer to that question is, where are you starting from? If you think Jalen Hurts is supposed to be the player he was in 22, he is definitively overrated. If you are one like I believe that Jalen Hurts in 2022 played a season in which he was out of his mind, and that's probably the outlier, probably the aberration, then no, he's not overrated. In reality, what Jalen Hurts probably is something like the 10th, 12th, 14th best quarterback in football, and he is paid approximately like it. A quarterback who in 2022, when the environment was literally perfect, was good enough to play MVP football. A quarterback who over the last 2 seasons, when the offense regresses a little bit, the roster deteriorates a little bit, luck doesn't go your way, the coaching staff turns over, plays a lot more ordinary football. To me, the biggest issue with Jalen Hurts is the negative plays. I can deal with some of the bad decisions, but I can't deal with all of them. So what I did, Dianna, you're good buddies with Bill Parcells, who sort of created this quarterback commandments chart in which he says they need to avoid negative plays, and he counts fumbles, interceptions, and sacks among them. So that's all I did. I just added up sacks, interceptions, and fumbles for all quarterbacks since the start of the 2023 season. The comprehensive list of quarterbacks with more of those, more negative plays since the start of last season, are as follows: Bryce Young and Sam Howell. Jalen Hurts is third on that list.
I saw that stat. I was hoping you would bring that up.
Yeah, so obviously that's not the kind of list that you want to be on. Now, to compare Jalen Hurts to those two guys is obviously dishonest because he does a lot more good than those guys.
Yeah.
However, if you're making that many negative plays, you are relying upon your defense to save you, and the Eagles don't have a good enough defense to save him. And the Eagles are also not paying him $51 million a year for the defense to save him. They're paying him that much money for Jalen Hurts to play up. So I need to see him play faster. I need him to major in sack avoidance and turnover avoidance to a larger degree. And if that means he doesn't take as many shots down the field, then so be it.
Yeah. Thank you for that stat. I'm going to be using that at my dinner table tonight.
I saw that, dude.
Just to get the vibes. Just to get the vibes going around here.
Get the vibes going. Your husband's going to freak.
It's going to be a rough few days. That's okay though. All right. This is our last question for you in regards to these arguments, because I'm curious with what you think about this, right? Do you think Joe Flacco, Geno Smith, Sam Darnold, and Baker Mayfield are proof that the NFL moves on from quarterbacks too quickly? Because we're seeing this trend where it's this resurgence. This is all Jeremy. He's a producer on our show, so he came up with
Jeremy.
That one.
The answer is yes, and not only do we move on from quarterbacks too quickly, Dianna, but we also underestimate the extent to which coaches have a direct impact on performance. We much too often will evaluate a young quarterback, like in the case of Baker Mayfield, and context neutralize it as if he's playing in the same environment as some young quarterback who is succeeding. Let's be honest. When Baker Mayfield entered the NFL, playing for the Cleveland Browns, that team was intentionally losing games for several of the previous seasons. They were just awful. And Baker Mayfield somewhat quickly turned them into a representative, respectable franchise, one that actually won a playoff game from being a total joke not that long before. To compare what Baker Mayfield's onboarding was, for lack of a better term, to, C.J. Stroud, who very clearly plays up, but is also in a very favorable environment, is obviously dishonest. And at the first opportunity the Cleveland Browns had to move on from him, they did, because they decided it was better to take sort of the unknown approach, or the Deshaun Watson approach in this case, than to play the pay the devil that they already had. I hate that. I think the same can be said about Jared Goff, who, even though he enjoyed high-level winning with the Rams, was effectively cast aside, and even though it worked out better for both parties involved, Jared Goff's going to have a long, prosperous NFL career in large part because coaching. Geno Smith on his fourth team obviously got excellent coaching previously, and now with Ryan Grubb, continues to play up still. And Joe Flacco retired. And as it turns out, Kevin Stefanski and Shane Steichen know what they're doing, right? So to me, it's all about coaching. Most of these quarterbacks, Chase, correct me if I'm wrong because you're the expert here, Most of these quarterbacks are somewhat comparably talented. And you come into the draft, you come to the NFL as a first-round pick, you're not talking about a chasm in terms of God-given ability in many cases. What you're talking about is environment. What you're talking about is coaching. There are certain quarterbacks, Bryce Young, Zach Wilson, Jamarcus Russell, some of the sort of obvious busts that probably would have busted anywhere. But there's also, for every Bryce Young, a Sam Darnold who's obviously talented and just needed someone to believe in him and lean into his strengths,
Yeah.
and rather than believe that their system was the sort of their way or the highway.
Yeah, for me, Hembo, it's three things, right? Like just learning from 14 years, being with some Hall of Fame quarterbacks and being with some not so great quarterbacks, but we're not going to mention them on the show. Three things in this quarterback carousel, like of development, right? Because everyone's like, why can't you develop? Why can't you? Coaching, system, and fit. And fit, not necessarily franchise, but what do you have around you? Do you have playmakers around you? The most important thing that I would rather have over anything is an offensive line.
Yes.
Give me an offensive line. I can make you work and I can make you better outside. System. Kyle Shanahan. Like, give me a Kyle Shanahan. Give me an Andy Reid. Like, Patrick Mahomes is extremely talented. If Patrick Mahomes wasn't an Andy Reid system, I'm not saying he's not going to be great.
Yeah.
It's just he makes him better. And then the coaching, obviously, like that, like you just hit on, but it's those three things: coaching, fit, and system for me that make or break quarterbacks. And I do think we're moving on from quarterbacks because I don't think they're the right coaches. So I think these quarterbacks are actually lucky. Like all these guys, Flacco, Gino, Sam Darnold, Baker, they're lucky they moved on because they would have been bust. Now they're not. Now they're having like a little bit of resurgence, and I love it.
Yeah, I think the next book you need to write should be: Are the current NFL head coaches good? Just good. Are there enough
32
good
volumes.
coaches?
That's something like
Exactly. There would be some books that were very small, like a little children's book, like 3 pages.
Yeah, certainly.
So you've got this book with Greeny, Got Your Answers, the 100 Greatest Sports Arguments Settled. And you've been around Mike for so long, so many years with him on Mike and Mike, and you just have basically worked with him since he went back on television to do the Get Up morning show. How'd you guys come up with this idea of let's do a book? Is it just because you were talking about sports so much?
So the idea of this book, and as it turns out now, a book series, was actually conceived like in April of 2020 during like the throes of COVID here in the Northeast. He was just like shooting the breeze with some people on our staff where someone sort of like floated this idea, oh, who owns that number in sports? And you know how how his brain works. There was a light switch. He called me, and before you know it, we wrote a best-selling book called Got Your Number, in which we assigned a number 1 through 100, who owns every number in sports, and wrote like 500 to 700 words, sort of like research-packed essays on each one. Got Your Answers, the book I'm holding in my hand, is sort of a book that more leans into sports debate. So what we learned and what we listened to from our readership was effectively, we love sports history. What we really care about the most, though, is sports debate. And so what we did was conceive the 100 top debates in sports, and I poured it over the numbers, did all the research, and we, for the most part, spat out top 10 lists across the board to answer these questions definitively. So the reason I like the book so much is because it's super flippable, super snackable, and I think that sort of serves the sports fan in today's climate really well. I think we do sports debate really well on TV. We've not done it that well in print, and so I'm really happy with how this thing turned out and the reaction that we've received from it.
What is your favorite, not the best debate? What's your favorite sports argument in the book?
My favorite sports argument in the book is one in which we rank the top 10 MVP snubs in every sport in history. So, for example,
every sport.
So, for example, in 1962, Wilt Chamberlain averaged 50 points and 25 rebounds and finished third in the MVP voting behind Bill Russell and Oscar Robertson, which is a complete joke. In 1987, Jerry Rice should have inarguably won MVP of the league and did not. In 1982, Dan Fouts should have won MVP of the league inarguably and did not. And so obviously at the time, people are making these decisions with, we'll call it less research, less information than we can have now. But retroactively, because I'm such a big history guy, because I'm such a big buff from that standpoint, I like sort of correcting the record. So what we've effectively done is assign the MVP award to 10 people who deserved it in those respective seasons, which is fun. And in the case of pro football, I think Jerry Rice's 1987 and Dan Fouts' 1982 seasons were the ones that really took the cake.
Dude, you are a walking encyclopedia. My goodness.
It's so right. I heard lists in the book, Chase, and I was like, oh, I ain't picking that book up. I hate lists. I hate them.
You hate lists. You do.
But the way
lists.
you explained it, I hate lists because I worked at ESPN for a million years. That's all we did was lists. But I'm discovering that I actually secretly enjoyed them more because we've been doing them.
We do them on the show.
I just wondered, do you think Stephen A. just like walks by your desk and rips open your book and just takes some ideas because it's all about debate? I mean, he should just read your book on the air.
But like, chapter 48, who are the top 10 individual Winter Olympians? It doesn't really strike me as the kind of thing that he and Shannon are going to debate on a Monday morning. So we hit like the whole spectrum here. So I think we're serving just about every sports fan, Stephen A. and Shannon
That's
included.
Amazing, man.
Well, you know him;
Congrats
he can
on
sell
that.
anything. He could tell me who the top 10 landscapers in my town, and I'd listen to him.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, if I know anything about your town, neither of us can afford any of those 10 guys. So.
Oh, God, don't remind me. Look, we want you to stay, so we're going to take a really quick, short break here. We like to end the show with some stuff about our life, things that are going on, parts of our family that are driving us nuts is usually what we wind up talking about. You've got 3 under 2.
Huh?
So we've got some parent questions for you and some survival tips.
Cute family, man.
Yeah, so we'll be right back. All right, so Hembo, on this show, Chase and I often talk about how we're just like in it, right? We're working, we've got the kids. I've got a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old. Chase has a 7-year-old boy, a 5-year-old girl, 3-year-old girl. So yeah, we're constantly just sharing these thoughts about how no one warned us. Everyone's like, oh, go have kids, yay. And now we're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like, we love it. But you've got 3 kids under the age of 2. Explain what your life is right now.
Inexplicable is what my life is like. So Chase seems a little confused as to how the math works here. So
I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah. So identical twin girls were the first that came.
Oh.
They were born in August of 2022. And then less than 2 years later, in August of 2024, then came Callie Ruth, my 3rd girl, and she was born 2 days before my twins turned 2. So that, my friends, is how you get 3 girls under the age of 2.
Dude,
and as you might imagine, yeah, my house is
twins. How
twins.
First of all,
Yeah.
how were twins? We could barely handle the first one, and you have 2 right out the gate.
So the best way I can answer that question, honestly, is I don't remember. Like, I basically blacked out for a consequential number of months. And so, like, when someone will say, how old were they when this happened? Or do you remember when this happened? Like, God's honest truth is, like, I don't remember what year that was. Like, I can remember, like, how bad the New England offensive line was in pass pro. I can't remember, like, when my kids first got on their knees and were able to crawl, because everything was just like a blackout. It was so wild. And so we finally
your wife, man.
come up for air. Oh, she's a saint. Although as a Giants fan and me being a Philly fan, I always say she has bad taste in men, as do you, Diana. But however you choose to slice it, that's where we are. Life is just an absolute tornado on a daily basis.
Paul, I remember when you shared with me when we were together that you were having babies, and I had just had my first son. And I just remember being so excited for you, but also knowing that you didn't know yet. Like, you didn't know what that kind of crazy, chaotic life was about to be, but also the love that comes with it too. So is there anything that you look back on, like old Paul, like, man, if I could have just told old Paul this about what this parenting thing is like, is there anything that you would have told yourself?
What I would have told myself, and what I'll tell any person listening, is get off your phone. Like, the easiest thing for us to do is always have our phones in our hands or in our pockets. And look, you're an insider, and so it's impossible for you to live your life without it. But you experience life to the fullest so much more so when you're disconnected, like when you're off the grid, when you're not thinking about anything else. And so I make like a concerted effort on a regular basis just to disconnect, because look, they're observing everything that I'm doing. And if my like undivided attention isn't going towards them, it's at least partially elsewhere, obviously. And they're also observing me put my attention elsewhere too. So I would say, like, if there was anything I would give any parent advice about, it would just be put down your phone and enjoy the moments in real life.
All right, we got 8 kids between us, which is nuts, between 3 people. And my kids have had meltdowns. I know Diana's kids have had meltdowns. I'm sure your kids have had meltdowns. What's the worst place for a kid to have a meltdown?
Okay. So I think there's a clear and obvious answer to this question, although I've never taken them on a flight yet, but it has to be on an airplane. I can't imagine it being worse, because before I had kids, like, was that annoying person who would like side eye behind me when like someone was screaming like an apoplectic 6-month-old, as if the parent is like, like making them do that. Whereas I obviously know now that was foolish, but I can't imagine there's anything worse than my like kid screaming and 300 people in a tube being irate at the fact that they're screaming in a tube.
Yeah. It's horrifying. It was the most tense I ever was.
Of course it does.
Well, I never cared so much about what other people think. You can't help it. Like, you're just, oh my God, everyone's looking at me. My son is screaming his head off, and I'm that person. Because, Paul, I was just like you. Like, I was so judgy. Like,
Oh, of course.
Really? You don't say
like,
that you were judgy judge. Huh. Imagine that.
And then I became a mom, and anytime I see a mom on a plane, I'm like, can I help you? Like, I'm like, probably a little too much.
That's actually awesome.
I'm like,
Good
would you like
for
me to hold the baby for you? Right? You have to. We're all in it together.
Yes. We're all one big family at the end of the day.
Diana's holding stranger babies on the flight. My
It's just like walking around with them. So here's the thing. So you mentioned your wife is a Giants fan. You're an Eagles fan. Obviously, all things Philly. I always think it's hard, and I follow you on Instagram, and I see how you guys try to divvy this thing up, and you try to be fair with allowing your girls to not make any choices. It appears it seems like you're making choices for them. But what is like the nightmare scenario for you? Like, your daughter wakes up and says, "Dad, I am a fan of which team?" Are you like, you know what? Not gonna work here.
So, like, the verboten team in my household would be the New York Mets, and I'll tell you why. I could live with my daughters rooting for the Giants because my Lizzie's family, I should say, season ticket holders since the 60s. Like, we're talking Y.A. Tittle and the Yale Bowl, like, season tickets. We're going way back. They're also Yankees fans, and look, I hate the Yankees like everyone else does, but the resentment only comes from the fact that they've always been good, and my wife doesn't come from, like, a long line of, like, big baseball fans. And so, like, I could live with it, and I could imagine taking them to Yankee Stadium and enjoying it. But the Mets are in the Phillies division. The Mets just knocked the Phillies out in the National League Division Series, and we are obviously awash by Mets fans here in the Northeast, who are the worst ones because not only are they entitled, but they're also somehow the victims. The worst combination of fans that you can imagine. And so if she wanted to like the Giants and the Mets, if my girls like the Giants and the Mets, I just don't know what I would do with myself. Like, as someone who loves sports so much, that would be a very challenging row to hoe.
Yeah, that is really fair. I love getting pictures from my kids' daycare. Their teachers will snap photos of their classroom. Yeah. And, you see all the different jerseys the kids wear, or the colors of the different teams. And then there you see Mikey and Joey wearing their green Eagles. Just the only ones in there wearing, because we're not in a Philadelphia area. So they just stick out. Yeah. It's Giants and Jets land. So, I'm with you on the Mets. So, yeah. All right, real quick though, before you go, your World Series prediction.
My World Series prediction is Padres over Yankees. Yes. I'll tell you why.
Yes.
The Padres are the best team. The Padres are the team I've been on for a couple months now. I think the Yankees have a clear path to the World Series. Obviously, the Padres have to get past the Dodgers in Game 5. I think they will. I think they're the better team, and I think they will beat the Mets in the NLCS and beat the Yankees in the World Series. I see you popping your fist. I'm not saying that to pander. I'm saying it because it's been my pick all along. Padres over. I
live 20 minutes from the stadium, and we're going. We already have tickets to the championship series because that's how I know they're going to make it.
That's good. Glad to hear it.
Well, Hembo, I'm sorry about your Phillies. Bryce Harper's going to finish his career as a New York Yankee anyway, so we'll have that conversation at one point. I know nothing. I'm kidding. I'm not an MLB insider. You know that.
Are you an insider too? Okay, all right. Just making sure.
No, I don't touch it.
You do know some stuff. You know a sneaky amount of non-football stuff. I will say.
Sometimes. All right, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for weighing in on all your arguments, all your facts, your ability to just recall things. Anything that doesn't have to do with your daughters. It's like it happened yesterday. So,
that is no, the kind of dad that makes me. But either way, it's the dad they got.
You're the best. Thanks so much.
Later, friends.
Thanks for tuning into Scoop City. If you want to hear more, make sure you like and subscribe. We drop our new episodes every Tuesday and Friday.